Hey everyone, Thanksgiving was last week, and you know what that means. That's right, it's my 2-year cancer anniversary. Now, I'm just kidding, obviously. People don't really know that I had this. I haven't really talked about it much. But, I did have thyroid cancer. I got diagnosed with it, junior year of high school. I had to get surgery for it, shockingly. You can kind of see the lighting's not that great, but you can kind of see my scar. Here's a picture of when it was a little worse. I'm gonna throw that up in a second. It's not that bad, but if you're kind of, not really into that sort of thing, this is your little warning. But this is what I look like, over here. Yeah, I didn't shave in that picture, so I don't know what was going on with my face, but you can see my scar pretty bad. And I did have a picture like right after surgery, and if you think that looked bad, oh man, this one was way worse. But I guess I removed it from my phone because I guess I just didn't like looking at it. But that one was really bad. So I just thought I'd talk about it, my experience, my review. I'd give it a solid, probably like a 6 out of 10. Not good, not great. Of it's funny, but I'm also here to share some of my stories. So, cancer. I don't even really know how to talk about this. It's such a weird thing, because whenever someone hears cancer, they're like, "Oh, geez, oh, this is really bad," But my treatment and everything was pretty, straightforward. It wasn't super bad. I didn't have to go on chemo or anything, so I got to keep my luscious locks. But yeah, I guess I'll just go into the start. So the first thing, it was really weird how I found out. So normally for thyroid cancer, I should probably do this. So basically, your thyroid is kind of in your neck, and it regulates, hormones and, like body temperature. I don't know what all hormones. I know it messes with like digestion, because when I had it, I just would like not eat anything for like 2 days. I'd eat really light, and then I would have like 5 bajillion calories in a day. Yeah, and also like I never really got cold. It was really weird. I could just like walk anywhere in shorts, and I usually don't get super cold, even like when temperatures are low. But like it went up to like 11. Like I just was never cold, and I would get hot like really easily. And anyway, so those were my main experiences, but I'm gonna get into how I actually found out I had cancer, because that was a shocker for me, at least. So I'm chilling in my biology class. This is high school. Everything's going good. She's talking about the mitochondria or some shit, and I get this little notification on my Apple Watch, and it's like, "Hey, buddy, we think you're sitting down, but your heart rate's at like 150 right now. So you might want to get that looked at." And so I went home, and I was like, well, this is kind of weird. My Apple Watch was saying, my heart rate was pretty high. What do you think I should do? And my mom, bless her heart, she just said, yeah, "Oh, you're probably just out of shape. You just need to hit the gym a little more. Your heart rate's too high. You haven't been exercising." And, so that was okay, so I waited a couple more weeks, and kept happening. "Hey buddy, your heart rate's super high. Hey, you should probably look at this." So I brought it up again, and my dad was like, "Okay, well, we'll set up, an appointment for like a heart thing," because we thought, "Oh, well, this must be like a heart issue. He's got some heart problems." So we got that scheduled, but in the meantime, my dumbass was like, maybe I am just out of shape. So I went on a run, to get in shape, because that makes sense, because just running once will fix all my heart problems. And when I was running, my heart rate jumped, and I'm not exaggerating. It was like 213. And so I saw that, and I was like, okay, I'm actually gonna have a heart attack if I keep running. So I just stopped, and I walked back home. And then I told my parents about that, and they were like, okay, no, yeah, something's really wrong, So we do the heart scan, heart's fine. And then they were like, oh, well, maybe it's a thyroid problem because apparently thyroid does heart rate too. Oh, I forgot to mention that was another thing at Kinter Hurls. It regulates like heart rate and stuff. So, you know, we go to the place to get an ultrasound, which is like what they do for like the pregnant people. You know, they put like the jelly and they have the little thing. It's kind of cool. And they did the thing on the neck. And so like, you know, I don't remember what I think. Well, I guess here, I think the thyroid's like, I'm trying to remember. You know, it's only been 2 years. I should know about this. I just had it. I'm not an expert on it. Okay. Yeah, it's like around here. So, you know, they do the thing and they noticed that like, okay, so the normal like thyroid, right, is like, we'll say that this is this, right? This is what it's supposed to look like. This is such a bad example, but basically what they saw was like this. So there was like a second like mass on it. And, you know, then the people can't tell you, like, that's one thing, is, like, doctors and stuff that do, like, the ultrasounds and, or, I don't know, maybe it's probably, like, a nurse or whatever, but the people that do it can't tell you, like, what they think it is because you need to be, like, professionally diagnosed, but most of the time they know. And so, you know, the lady was like, I'm not saying it's cancer, but, like, you know, and so, you know, when you hear that, I'm like, oh, so I'm just going to die, because anytime someone says they have cancer, or, you know, anytime you hear the word cancer, it's such a scary term, and it is for most types of cancers. But, you know, so I was like, you know, right in my will, you know, staring longingly into the sky. You know, I was getting ready to get buried, and you know, so a couple weeks go by, they decide to schedule a biopsy, which this is another funny thing. And I know it's like I'm kind of smiling talking about it, just because like looking back at it, there was a lot of funny things that were funny, like not really necessarily at the time, but for me now it is kind of funny. So I had to get a biopsy so they could actually tell me that it was cancer or not. But basically I already like convinced myself that it was, so I was kind of ready for the worst. And here, actually, okay, so basically a biopsy, right, is they pretend this is a really thin needle, but it's like about this long, and basically biopsy is a funny, fancy scientific word for stabbing the shit out of you. So they basically have to get enough of the DNA or whatever of the mass or whatever they're trying to identify on the tip of the needle just by stabbing it a bunch, and then they run it under like a microscope or something and analyze it. And so for me, since it's in the thyroid, they had to stab my neck a bunch, and that was very, very fun. You know, a 10 out of 10 would go again next week if I could. It was really bad. I hated it so much. Like, you know, if you've ever had a shot or like an IV, you know, anyone that's like afraid of needles, don't even, like, I'm not trying to scare you, but like, at least for in the neck, it was pretty rough. So they give me this numbing shot, didn't do anything. Unless, you know, like it hurt like hell. So, I mean, I would hate to know what it feels like without a numbing shot. But anyway, so, you know, I'm laying down like this, because you got to be super still. And, I guess I'm not laying down like this. I'm more like 100% flat. You know, I'm laying on the bed. But, you know, I'm stiff. I'm not moving. The guy goes like, okay, so have you ever had a biopsy before? And I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I go there all the time. So, you know, he gives me the rundown. Basically, you know, he's like, all right, so we're going to have to take this needle and just sort of jab it into your neck. And we're gonna have to do that like about 7 to 9 times, and you know, I was like, oh, okay. And then he's like, don't move, you know, unless you know you want to get a main artery slit and bleed out, you know, you don't move. So I was like, well, what if I have to cough? And he's like, well, then just like, you know, let me know, like tap or something. You know, I was like, okay, sounds easy enough. Right? So you're laying down, and I kid you not, it feels like, oh, and the other thing he told me, he was like, oh, also, you'll probably be a little sore next week because, you know where the thyroid is? We kind of have to just completely stab through a muscle. So, like, if your entire side of your neck, like, ever feels sore, you know, next week, like, that's probably fine. So I was like, oh, nice, thanks. and then he gets to hacking away. And so basically, I'm laying on the table, right, and this is what I feel. Okay, so he's got the little needle, and I'm not kidding, I swear to God, this is exactly what it feels like. He's laying down, he bends over, and he's just like, and he's just stabbing and it feels like that, and he keeps going. It's the worst thing ever. And you could, it's numbed, but you can definitely feel it. And it's so he does that, and then around the 6th or 7th needle, I'm getting a little antsy. I feel like I have to cough, and so but he was almost done, so I was like, I don't want him to stop early because he's gonna have to do like another needle, if he doesn't. So I'm just sitting there and I'm doing that thing. It's almost like when you have like an itch in your throat and you're trying not to cough, or like if you're trying to hold in a sneeze. I'm just sitting there like shaking and stuff. And I don't know if the guy was like paying attention, but I swear I thought I was gonna lose it. And then also I was like, well, you better not cough, you'll just die. Which isn't necessarily true, but definitely not good to move around when there's a sharp needle lodged in your neck. But and the other thing I remember is they had like a second person, I think, to like check to make sure that they had enough matter or tissue or like whatever to like run a test, before they send you home, because you don't want to do it and then get sent home and then be like, oh, it wasn't enough, you need to come back. But the way she said it was really weird. It was like a robot. She just went, adequate. It was the weirdest thing. I have no idea. But yeah, so waited a couple weeks for that. Got the results. Okay, it's cancer, you need surgery, nice job. So, again, I'm like, oh man, surgery, like neck surgery, that does not sound fun. And I was right. And also, when I went in to discuss with the surgeon, they're like, let's just see if he's got any, let's see if he's got any more cancer anywhere else. And so they do the little ultrasound again, and they ran it through my lymph nodes, because apparently when young people get thyroid cancer, it's an old like person cancer. Like usually older people just sort of get it, and it's really slow growing. So like people will die of just natural causes, and then like they find out that that person had thyroid cancer, but it just didn't affect them because it takes like years and years and years to actually like spread or to like do anything. But for kids, it actually spreads really quickly to lymph nodes, which is not exactly what you want, but like it's okay, because lymph nodes aren't at least in like the neck, they don't really, I don't think like spreads around as easy or something. I don't know. They made it sound like it wasn't that big a deal because it was pretty common for kids to have it spread in their lymph nodes. But then the surgeon was like, oh, okay, so it's in your lymph nodes too? And he's like, well, so usually the surgery, because I was kind of worried about I was worried about, having cancer and all that, but I was also worried about like the scar and stuff. And so, he goes, so for a normal thyroid surgery, the line that the incision we make is this, and he does this he takes it, like I'm sitting down, he comes behind me, he takes his finger, and then he goes, and I go, oh, that's not so bad, and he goes, but since it spread to your lymph nodes, and then he didn't say anything, and he just kept going up and up and up, and I was like, oh man, come on, that's not what I wanted. Obviously you don't want cancer, but yeah, so that wasn't good. And then he hit me with a little nice little tidbit of knowledge, and he's like, hey, since we gotta carve out your neck so much, we gotta hack away at it so much, when the surgery's done, your neck gets a little leaky. And so, but that's okay, because, so instead of having all that leaky, juicy stuff just sit in your neck, we stitch these tubes into your neck, so it drains out. It's great. And you just have tubes into your neck, and then we pull out the tubes that are in your neck, and you're good to go. And I was like, what? You're kidding me, right? You're not just, you're gonna suture into, PVC pipes into my neck. I can't imagine that's very comfortable. And he's like, well, it's only for a couple weeks. You'll be fine. Oh, okay. Thanks, doc. And, you know, and before he sends me on my little merry way, he's like, I just want to make sure that your nasal cavities are fine, because I don't know if that has something to do with, like, when they put you under, they have to, like, insert, like, breathing stuff, I think. But, you know, same type of shit. They give you the numbing spray, it doesn't do jack, and then he shoves this camera, like, up my nose, this, like, little thin, like, I don't know. But he just, yeah, and then it just, like, he just, like, shoves it up, and, you know, your nasal passages are, like, pretty deep, so it took a while, and it just, like, went, and then he's like, oh, yep, looks good, and then he just, like, rips it out. You know, that hurt like hell, too. And it's just insane. So, you know, I get this, you know, okay, I'm skipping ahead, but basically, you know, I'm preparing for the surgery. I couldn't eat anything with salt in it for a little bit. That was kind of weird. Oh, no, it's because, I remember this. It's because your thyroid takes up iodine, and it's, like, the one thing that it does. It's the only organ or whatever in your body that takes up iodine. So, salt has a bunch of iodine in it. You can get kosher salt that doesn't have iodine in it, but normal salt does. And so basically we wanted to not have any iodine in my system. So when I took, the way you treat the cancer after the surgery is they give you radioactive iodine. So that all the radiation gets pushed into the thyroid because it's the only organ in your body that can absorb the iodine. It's pretty interesting stuff. And, anyway, so the thing is, you know, I go prep for the surgery, don't eat, I get the surgery, I wake up, so much pain, 2 neck tubes into my neck here and here. You can see in the picture that little hole off to the side is where one of the tubes was. And the tape, they just use like duct tape or some shit, like to my chest. And, you know, so I'm recovering. It hurts like hell the entire time. I can't get comfortable. I have 2 tubes in my neck. No matter where I move, I got neck tubes. I did nothing I can do. And they're like, oh, we'll get these yanked out of you real quick. You just gotta stop being such a leaky little guy. So I was like, oh, okay. 1 week goes by. 2 weeks go by. 3 weeks go by. And the guy goes, man, you know, I don't know what to tell you. 4 weeks go by. Okay, you know, they just decide to send me home because they're like, okay, he's really not doing anything in this hospital bed. You know, my parents are in the medical profession. He's like, you guys know how to yank out a tube, I'm sure. So they sent me home, and, you know, 5 weeks go by. The entire time I have tubes in my neck, I'm not allowed to shower. So my hair is greasy as hell, and I smell like shit. I swear to God, if I, like, twisted, I swear it would just, like, ooze out. It was so greasy. I felt terrible and so gross. And, you know, I'm just laying in bed, still can't get comfortable. Eventually, oh, another really fun tidbit side note. So, for whatever reason, when I was at the hospital, you know, I was drinking, I was eating, it was fine, I was peeing, you know, normal human activities. But when I got home, all of a sudden, for no reason at all, my bladder just stopped working. So, and I know this is like kind of TMI, but I'm just telling you about my whole experience because, you know, this cancer thing, you know, this is just how it happened. My bladder just stopped working, and I had to go into our clinic and get a catheter put in, which is basically where they shove a tube in your dick to, you know, be able to pee. So at one point I had 3 tubes in me. So that was really, really fun and interesting. And also the thing about that is, so they did like another ultrasound or whatever, or it's called like a bladder scan, so they can just see how much fluid is in your bladder. And they said like a normal amount of fluid is like 0.4 or 0.8 like milliliters, and I had 1.2 liters of like pee in my bladder. So I don't know, I was fucked. And, you know, so that happened. I go home, like 2 more weeks, no, it was like 1.5 weeks go by. I finally can get these neck tubes yanked out, and I don't think I'm like, this stuff is like, it sounds bad, but it feels worse, I'm telling you. So I had a tube here and a tube here, and they were stitched in. And so, you know, basically, and I thought, like, you know, like my neck's like right here, right? It's like right here. The tubes can't be that long, you'd think. But, you know, I stopped being so leaky, so they got to be pulled out. And if you've seen, you've ever been to like a circus and you see the guys like pulling out shit from their mouth, that's what it felt like. Like my dad, he just kept pulling and pulling this tube out of my neck. The thing was like this long. I have no idea where they shoved it. And the other one wasn't as long. This one wasn't as long, but the first one was like circus comically long levels of, it was insane. And so that hurt too. It was a really weird like tugging feeling the entire time, but like not tugging, like tug on your skin, and then think of that like but in your neck the entire. It was bad. And then I was able to shower, so that was good. My neck was super stiff because the surgery and scar tissue is very tight. So my range of motion, and for whatever reason, like my shoulders were really high. I don't know if that had something to do with like, I don't know, but so basically for like the entire time, and I could barely walk. I was like 80-year-old here, look at this. I was doing like this 80-year-old like shuffle. And you know, so that was bad, but they just had me do range of motion stuff. So, you know, they just had me go like this, and then up and down, and left and right. And that was pretty much as far as the like recovery goes. And then after the recovery part, they're like, hey, you know, you're not feeling so bad anymore, buddy. We're gonna make you radioactive for 2 weeks. And I was like, uh-huh. And they're like, oh yeah, well what did you think this radioactive iodine thing is? You think it's just like a one and done thing? No, man. And so we go to the hospital. This was like the weirdest thing ever. So we go to the hospital, you know, we're like, hey, I'm here for the radioactive iodine. They're like, all right. And so they come out with this, it's like this big of a capsule, like this water bottle. And it's all lead. And she opens it up, and there's like a single pill in it. And it's super long. It's like this long. And she's like, all right, take it. And so I drink it, and then she gets out this fucking like, it's like Chernobyl, like, you know, level equipment here. It's like this massive, it's got this massive bungee cord in this big box, and it's like a radio, is it called a radiometer? I don't know, the stuff that measures radiation. And she like flips it on, and she points it at my stomach, and it's like beep, 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 beep. And then she's like, oh yep, you're radioactive, all right, you're good to go, buddy, see ya. And then, you know, so we're walking out, and she's like, oh, also don't sit in the front seat with your mom, sit in the back, because, you know, she's gonna get some of that radiation. Because I wasn't really thinking about it, but yeah, I mean, like, if this isn't just like in my stomach and just going to my thyroid, I'm like emanating radiation for like 2 weeks straight. So I had to be like quarantined. It was like COVID, you know, you're locked in your room. My parents had to bring me my meals. I wasn't allowed to like be in contact with any of my pets or, you know, my siblings. And, you know, like, I'd say I'm more of an introverted person. I don't really need a lot of social interaction, and I keep myself busy. You know, I have my games, I read, and do whatever. But, so that part, the actual isolation part wasn't that bad, but the thing that was bad about that was, it's like, so this is safe enough to give me, but it's so dangerous that I'm not allowed to be within like 12 feet of anything. But inside of me, it's fine. Like, oh, all your other organs, it doesn't matter. It's fine. And, you know, this isn't gonna screw you up in the long run. You know, you're all right. But it's bad enough to not be near people, but it's okay to. I mean, because they got me out of that hospital after I took that pill. They're like, you need to go. They're like, okay, you know, you're fine. Get out. So, and sit in the back seat, you know. It's the stupidest thing. It's like, you know, when you're stopping at a light, you know, make sure that all the cars, you know, make sure you're not close to any of the cars, because, you know, they're getting radiation too and stuff. It's just like, it's crazy, you know. You know, and they didn't tell me that, but, you know, they made it sound like it's a really big deal. But you would think if it's safe enough for me to eat, you know, it should be safe enough to like be around people, you know. But, you know, so after that I was radioactive, and then they did like a scan to see if, you know, it got everything. And it looked like they did. And oh, the other fun thing about thyroid issues is, since they had to completely remove my thyroid, you know, some people just get like half of it removed, but since it spread to my lymph nodes, they just like, you know, took a vacuum and just like sucked out all that shit. I don't have a thyroid anymore, so that means I can't be drafted for wars. Sorry, America, you're not gonna get this, you know, amazing fighter. And I have to take these little pills called I think it's like levothyroxine. And so basically that's a supplement for all of the like stuff that the thyroid produces. And the thing that's like, you know, that was the last bit that sucks about that is so thyroid medicine has like not been improved upon since like the 1800s for whatever reason, because for 90% of people, you know, they just take the pill, your body can digest and absorb it fine, and it works great for them. But for me and 10% of people, it doesn't necessarily like work out the best. So for me, and part of it too is they have like there's like 5 different like brands that make it, and they all put different additives in it. So I don't know if it was like some of the like additives that they were adding to the medicine to help like digestion that was screwing me over, or what. But for like the first 6 months, I'd say, after the surgery, I was fine, you know, eating was fine, you know, whatever. But after that, it just like, it kind of just flipped like that. And, you know, I think taking the medicine, like, for whatever reason, having to digest it, like, makes my digestive system, like, go into, like, overdrive. And, like, I don't know, I was just having a bunch of stomach issues. So, that was going on for, like, probably about half a year. And then we switched some medicines around. We were trying out some other things, and then I found we sort of found like a combination of stuff that kind of works for me. So I'm fine now as far as that stuff goes, or at least way better. And you know, it's working out. But the thing is it's like I can't just not take this, because there's nothing else. You know what I mean? Like, there's just nothing else. I'm just stuck with doing this till I die. So if it's not working out the best for me, that just kind of sucks. I'm out of luck, because there's not much I can do. But it's definitely like everything's, I'd say, pretty manageable right now, and I don't really I wouldn't say I notice anything like super different after the surgery and everything. They still want me to do like scans every so often, or oh no, it's not scans, it's blood work, because that's another cool, interesting fact about the thyroid cancer is the way they check it is you can just do blood work. So, you know, since iodine is the only thing that like the thyroid does, and you know, whatever, they can check the blood levels, I think, and it could not be iodine, it could be some other like thing, but basically they check for it, and if they find out that's in your blood, they're like, hey, you probably have some thyroid cancer cells floating around somewhere, you know, cooking stuff up. So, you know, they want me to get blood work every so often to check for it, which is fine, and it's every like, you know, couple years, or like every year, and then it kind of tapers off, but it's not like every week. And the other thing that when I first got diagnosed with cancer, it really pissed me off, because the doctor goes, oh, that's okay, that's the good cancer to have. And it's like, oh, gee, thanks, buddy. You know, like, what the hell? Why would you say that to someone? You know, that's not, you're hoping, like, oh, I just have, like, a cold. You know, like, oh, at least it's just a cold. At least you just stubbed your toe. It's only a paper cut. Cancer? What? You say that about cancer? Oh, well, as long as it's not, like, you know, lung cancer, or like, you know, a brain tumor or something, you know, you're lucky, you got the good kind. Good job, buddy, I'm rooting for you. It's like, why? You can't just say that to someone. And now it's funny, but at the time I was kind of like, oh, you know, gee, thanks, man. Like, but anyway, I know this was kind of a long video, but that was my experience overall, you know, on the cancer scale. Probably give it about, you know, I think 6 out of 10 is pretty solid, you know, because it's, you know, not a lot of upkeep, but, you know, the surgery and recovery and everything was pretty hell. So thank you guys for watching, and have a merry. Well, it's not. I don't want to say Merry Christmas soon because it's Christmas isn't a while away. Have a happy post Thanksgiving, everybody. Bye bye.